Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Red Earth Production Studios for a special YBMcast with Matt and Brian. I have Matt here next to me. I've been trying to get him to do this with me for quite a while. He's been reluctant, but, I understand why. He's been putting all his ducks in a row and getting himself, but Matt's group, the St. Louis Bandits, recently, he's been working with a group out of Cincinnati that he just became. You're the president of Midland Baseball in Cincinnati, Ohio, correct?
Well, Midland Baseball's hub is based out of Cincinnati, Ohio, but I am the president of Midland Baseball, which Midland Baseball is throughout the country.
And it's headquartered in Cincinnati.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And so he's been talking about this, been working on it for quite some time. I've been going, hey man, can I say no? Don't say nothing. So I didn't, but today I've got him on the show and he's in his garb, and we're going to talk a little Midland baseball. There's a lot of history. The only thing I must admit, though, the only thing I don't like is that hat looks too much like a Michigan Wolverines hat. I've never been a big. I don't know. It's just me, but it looks good on you.
You'll have to change your taste.
I'm being honest. I can't help it.
You get older. Sometimes you change your taste buds.
So the one thing that stands out to me, though, when Matt first started talking about this was. And if you want to follow Midland Baseball, they do some great stuff, get to know a little bit more about the organization itself, because your St. Louis Bandits are now the Midland Bandits as well, correct?
Correct.
So how's that working out? How's that going? And, how's that transition been so far?
Well, the name changed, but everything won't officially move over uniform-wise until the fall, because parents have already purchased uniforms. All that's already taken care of. The name change on paper, websites changed, Things in Perfect Games websites changed, stuff like that. But in regards to going to the field, seeing teams, you won't see uniforms until fall. But the Bandits themselves are now the Midland Bandits, so you just assume the Midland name, and which is very similar to the other locations throughout the country.
So we'll come back to this in just a minute, because I know there's a lot within that structure. But let's talk about Midland Baseball. What do people know about Midland Baseball?
Around here, probably not much.
Right. I didn't. I mean, when you start talking, I really didn't. So,
a lot of the high school kids, they know who Midland Redskins are, which is the 18U team. Or they've gone and they've to some big events and they've seen a Midland team, or they've traveled to like an Indianapolis or a Cincinnati or a Kentucky, and they've seen, not one of the premier teams, but they've seen just a regular team, in-house team play at some point. If you are a baseball person, or if you own an organization, most likely you have heard of them just because of the history. I mean, it started in 1966. 68, depending on which year you want to pick. So it's the longest running amateur baseball club in the country.
And I want to point this out here, folks. One of the biggest, most impressive things I saw from all of this was, if anybody's familiar with the Connie Mack World Series, they have won it 16 times.
Correct. 16 times.
And how many times in a row?
3 times in a row, 3 times. Nobody has ever won it 4 times in a row.
So they've done 3 three-peats.
3 three-peats, correct. Wow. And the last three-peat was 17, 18, 19. 20 was canceled due to COVID.
Right.
So this is the year where we're trying to win the 4th one in a row.
Wow. That would be impressive, wouldn't
it? Yeah. Just winning it in general is impressive, because a lot of people don't understand what the Connie Mack World Series actually is.
Right.
It's in Farmington, New Mexico. It's the equivalent to the College World Series for amateur baseball. It's 18U. You can be any age to try to get in it, but you have to win a qualifier to get there. So you can't just show up to be in it. You have to win an event to even get to the World Series.
So how does it compare? I'm trying to remember the one they do in Wichita, which is the NBC.
They have some of those around. The difference is like was it like NABF,
right?
Pony, some of those other ones. You can get into those CABA by just registering. You can't get into the Connie Mack World Series by just registering. Okay. And when you go play a tournament to get in, you don't play pool games and then get seeded out. You're straight bracket from the gate. You lose 2 games, you go home. So you can travel to Texas. You can travel to Cincinnati. You can travel to wherever you want to go play in it. But if you're going to go out the gate, you have to be ready to go. It's double elimination from the get-go.
Double elimination bracket play.
Right out the gate. Old school baseball.
Wow. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
And when you get to Farmington, there's a parade. There's 5,000 people watching at the stadium. It's a really good atmosphere. The town is amazing. The place is amazing, and everything. It's kind of like in Omaha. Everything shuts down for the Farmington ABC Connie Mack World Series, and they run like 17U World Series, 16U World Series. They call them like Don Mattingly. They call them something else. I don't remember what the other ones are called, but you get the idea.
When we're looking at these types of things here, now, just in the one thing that's kind of impressive here, just to bring up, there's 100 MLB players, and I'm looking at the list of MLB players that have played for Midland, and it's a who's who.
Yeah, there's 2 Hall of Famers, King Griffey Jr. and Barry Larkin, that played, and then you get into your Matt Harveys, Ben Attendee, Mark Mulder, Mike Matheny, Jay Payton. The list is Shelley Duncan, Chris
James
Duncan.
McCann, who's currently isn't he still the catcher for the Atlanta Braves?
Yeah. So there's a lot, and there's a ton of kids right now in the minors. There's a ton of kids in college. I mean, right now. So we went through the list of right now. There's 31 former Midland players that are on a 40-man roster right now.
Because, you look at Tyler Chatwood, that's a name that's familiar, Lance McCullers.
And these are guys...
Scooter Jeanette.
Right. These are guys that played Major League Baseball. They didn't just get drafted.
No, Eric Hosmer, who won a World Series with the Kansas City.
They actually
Royals.
made a 40-man roster. They're on the 40-man roster.
Tyler Lyons, the Cardinals. Yasmani Grandal.
Yeah.
I mean, these aren't chumps. Christian Cologne.
There's a lot of good players.
Chris Carpenter, Zach.
You've got the Bell family, he's the coach for the Reds. You have Matheny, who's the coach for the Royals, and then there's another gentleman that's in the front office that could actually be the commissioner before it's all said and done. So there's guys all over, and there's a ton of assistants throughout Major League Baseball that all played there.
And in 2020, they're listing Jeff Criswell was at Michigan. He got drafted by the A's. Casey Martin at Arkansas by the Phillies. Tyler Brown, Vanderbilt by the Astros. Ian Bedell, Missouri, got drafted by the Cardinals. And Mitchell Parker, I don't know.
Sanjak, JUCO in Texas.
Okay. Drafted by the Nationals. So you got 5 guys with their career starting.
Yeah, and I played against that team in 2017.
Did you really?
Yeah, it wasn't fun. Not at all.
Oh, man. So, okay, Matt. So we talked about that. You had the 2 Hall of Fame players. You got in here. There's, an opportunity here. What does Rawlings Platinum Club mean? They're a Rawlings Platinum Club.
So Rawlings Platinum Club. I think there's 5 or 6 clubs in the country that are Rawlings Platinum, which means you are exclusively Rawlings. You wear Rawlings gloves. You hit with Rawlings bats. You wear Rawlings uniforms. A Rawlings Platinum Club means that there are platinum teams in your club. that have to do nothing but Rawlings.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll have our national teams. We'll have our premier teams, like our 17U Premier, 17U National, 16U, 15U, our 18U Redskins team. Those teams are Rawlings Platinum, meaning Rawlings gloves, Rawlings bats, Rawlings helmets. Everything is Rawlings, and it has to be Rawlings. And it's a sponsorship. It's an agreement, but it's also one of 5
In the country.
in the country. Yeah.
So let's talk about this. As we're starting to talk about the club, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of things. You're talking about the St. Louis Bandits are becoming the Midland Bandits. There's the Cincinnati base. I'm sure there's teams there. I know. So where else do you have teams, and what does that look like moving forward? What is development? What does that look like for opportunities, say for kids around the St. Louis area and other parts of the country?
So we have St. Louis, Cincinnati, Tampa, Florida, and North Texas. And it's not, hey, we have one team. And I mean, there's an entire organization in Florida. I think he's in West Palm Beach. He's in Panama City. He's in Tampa. He's right outside of Orlando. And then North Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. They're the Midland Bulls. He's got some good dudes. Florida's got some good dudes. There's a couple, 2023, 2024 kids in Florida going to Florida State already. We'll commit it. A couple Texas kids, like A&M, Oklahoma State. So Midland Bulls are in Texas. Midland Swarm are in Florida. So the idea is we have our 15U, 16U, 17U Premier national teams, and they are true national. It's not just, hey, we're playing a national tournament, so we call it a national team or a Premier team. It's true national. The 17U national team this year, 5 kids from Texas, 2 kids from Florida, 2 kids from Arizona, 1 from Colorado, 3 from Arkansas, 2 from Missouri, 2 from Ohio, 1 from Georgia, 2 from Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
It's a national team.
That's a national team, right.
100% national team. So we will have those national teams throughout high school. So you play in the organization, doesn't guarantee you that you're going to be on one of these teams. But what we do is we say, here are the kids that we recommend for the person that's coaching said team. What do you have? What do you need? And then you get an opportunity to, possibly be on that team.
So what does that do? You have this basically this club that's very storied, has had a lot of success, knows how to train baseball players, right? And I mean that I'm just, so how do you've been with the Bandits and having success for however many years, 10 years now, right? Close to
2012, so we're close, yeah.
Yeah. What do you take from that and bring over into St. Louis, into Texas, into Florida? What does that do when it starts branching? How does that club, how does that training move into these?
Well, there's a couple of
places?
different things. People want to go to big events. Your best players want to go to big events. If you don't take them, someone else is going to take them there.
Right.
So that's just the way it works. But you can't just go to an event in Atlanta with 450 teams and playing all over and expect people to come watch you. You can do all the recruiting you want. You can do all the emails you want. You can do everything you want. You got to have a dude on the mound. But there's such a history with Midland when a team that is a premier team, national team, or a Missouri team or whatever, people will go watch just because it's Midland, because of how good they've always been.
Right.
And they know there's going to be dudes on this team that they can watch, that they want to get kids from. So the guy in Texas, per se, let's say he's going to a certain event, say he's going to the Perfect Game WWBA event, and we got a couple kids up north where their team does not need to go down there. There's no reason for that whole team to go. But we have 2 kids that need to be in front of those guys. We'll send our 2 kids with him. They'll get seen. Same if I'm going with our 17U team. And, the Florida guy's like, hey, Florida guys don't normally leave Florida, but they want to go to Atlanta or they want to go to Hoover, Alabama. They send a couple kids because they need to be seen by a bunch of other schools.
Right.
Or they aren't really interested in the schools in their area. Hey, I want to go play in this event. Or you're draftable.
I want to try to get to this area. Can I?
Or I'm draftable.
Yeah,
There's going to be a ton of pro guys.
Right.
I need to get seen by pro guys.
Right. Because, to be fair, let's talk about this. There are players that are very regional in the way they're going to approach what schools they're going to go to, right?
Correct.
How many kids really, when you're talking about that national level, then you're talking about, Power 5, D1 schools,
You're talking about 20
correct?
kids on a roster, and they're all Power 5 school kids.
Okay. So that's the difference, correct?
Oh, 100%.
So
now, you could take a team, like if we took a team down there, you could say, okay, I got 3 kids that are D1 kids. So you'll have a couple good games.
Right.
But the problem is that when you lengthen what you need to do to make a run in something like this, everybody has to be a guy. Everybody has to be a dude.
Yeah.
The teams that win these things have dudes. So we go to we get an automatic bid to Jupiter, which is the WWBA Worlds event, which we've won before. That event, again, it's the biggest event in the country. And that event is going to have 25 kids on it, and they're all dudes. And the 2022 team that goes, they'll all be committed.
And as well as I do, we've talked about this. There's, I think the commitments are starting to get back to it, but there's a lot of 2022 kids that still are looking for commitments too, correct? Because of COVID.
Yeah,
because of the extra years of eligibility. So it still has
and not being able to get out. So, right.
Still kind of thrown a wrench in things, hasn't it?
Yeah, we have a couple 2022s that aren't committed. I mean, they've got offers, but I think they want to do some runs this summer to see what happens.
You can't blame them.
No.
So then so we walk down from that national side, Matt. Then how does that? You have your premier teams. That's what you talked about, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that entail, and what are you looking at in that stretch? And is that just leave the teams in those particular areas? How does that work?
So there's one premier team at 15, 16, and 17. Mm-hmm. There's one national team at 15, 16, 17.
Okay.
Premier teams are teams that are solely based out of Cincinnati. There's kids from all over on it. Okay. But they're based out of Cincinnati. So most of them live within 3-4 hours of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And it's some of the best kids. You're going to have premier teams that can be national teams.
So the premier teams, they're all under 18, correct?
Correct. The only 18U team that's on a national level is the 18U Redskins, which is the team that goes to the Connie Mack World Series, and the 18U Redhawks, which is the team. They've been going to the CABA World Series, but I think they're now going to some events in Florida to try to win some 18U events in Florida.
Now, will kids from St. Louis or Texas or Florida or wherever else you have clubs in the country, will they have a chance to make that premier team?
You're talking about the 18U team? Or
I'm talking about the 15, 16, and 17.
Yeah, they have a chance to make that one or the national team, yeah.
So there is an opportunity, if you're good enough, to play on that premier level.
Mm-hmm. And we'll have like a Midland Southwest, which is the Texas guy putting the best kids he has in his area to go in a couple events. You've got Midland Southeast, which is the Florida guy putting his best kids together to play in events in Florida.
Gotcha.
So
okay. So you're kind of still, and it's still kind of a work in progress in that respect, in certain things that
to
you're doing there?
some degree, but it's pretty set in stone what we're doing. And
okay.
As it grows, obviously there's more kids within house to choose from to offer.
Right.
But the big thing for a lot of them is you want people to show up to watch you play. And coaches are going to go watch a Midland team over watching a Joe Schmo team. No offense, the Joe Schmo team may have 5 D1 arms, but they don't know that because they've never heard of it. They're not ranked in perfect game. PBRs.
Are they going to PBR? Are they going to those? Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't know.
Now, let me ask you this. Because we do here at YBM, we're pretty local. Reminds me of the song. 20 21 Pilots, fairly local.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
I wasn't going to guess that, but
That's
anyway,
where it went.
there you go.
Anywho, just popped in my head. Stuff like that does happen. You know, what are you going to do? But with the Midland Bandits, okay, you're evidently, you know, you're on that top side. Who's stepping into that, and how is the organization rolling that way? And you know, what are people looking for out of the Bandits here in St. Louis?
Well, I mean, I own the Bandits.
Right.
And I own Midland Baseball. So in here locally, I mean, the change is just the fact that you have more opportunities.
Right. So you're still basically running this program here as well as the overall operations. There's not somebody else jumping into that. Okay.
No.
Just a curious.
No one else is jumping in. But we have other guys that have stepped up.
Mm-hmm.
You're only as good as the other coaches that you have, right?
Agreed.
So there's other guys that have stepped up to do a lot of things that need to get done.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference for people in St. Louis or in-house or people that come to us is there's more of an opportunity because this is not, hey, I'm going to play on the Bandits national team because we're playing national events.
Right.
If you're going to play on Midland's national team, you're playing with guys that are literally from across the whole country.
Gotcha.
Like it's a true national team, national program.
And you know, I think there's a lot of stuff. We talk a lot about youth baseball in that 9, 10, 11, 12, working with Game 7. And I see a lot of these teams around and whatnot. But at that next level, once you're getting to that high school, I sometimes wonder how many people understand what that next level is with programs like Midland or even the Prospects or the Gamers, you know, that put together these types of situations. And, you know, the more information that we can put out.
Yeah, so let's take like the 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds.
Uh-huh.
The biggest difference for us, for those kids, for the younger teams, is we've brought in a guy, his name's Stevie D. He was with the Dodgers, head strength coach for 8 years. So now he is a part of our program. So he's working personally with a lot of those kids.
And I've seen that stuff. He does some crazy stuff, man.
He's really good at what he does. Yeah. And there's just other things that are in the works ever since all of this happened for training purposes, to make sure everybody's on the same page, to make sure everybody's doing the same stuff. You know, I don't want to get into too much detail about what those things are because they're not finalized yet.
Understand.
But just the opportunities that have presented itself ever since you know, acquired Midland is phenomenal for the kids and for the players. And you know, and you're going to have some kids that say, hey, look, I'm going to a D3, I'm going to an AI. That's great. But you still going to have access to, you know, these trainers, these strength coaches, these different things that we're going to be offering.
And this is I'll say this, and this is what I believe about these things. I really do. I know there's a lot of talk back and forth, you know, about what's wrong with youth sports and all the stuff, and everybody likes to focus on those things. I like to look at what's right. And when you have opportunities like this, there are always going to be problems within anything you do, right?
Yeah.
It's just the nature of it. But a small percentage of issues that we deal with is usually getting all this stuff, all the publicity and all the nonsense. Why don't we focus on the things that are right and push away, you know, don't give so much pub to all the nonsense. Let's focus in on what is positive and helping the kids have those conversations and really work towards a solution, yes?
Right. So here's, like, one of the biggest things for me is a lot of kids from, let's just take the St. Louis area in general. Mm-hmm. A lot of the top 10 kids go play for teams down south in the summer.
Right.
So they get to 16, they get to 17, and they're gone. They're like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to a team down south. So my thought process years ago was, well, what if we already offered that?
Right.
And now we do, because now we have a team where you can play for us, but these 4 events, you're playing with the national team. But then when the national team's not playing, you're still training with Midland in St. Louis. So you're still getting all the things that we offer, the features. You're playing with the local guys, and then you're going to go jump on with the national team. Because that's what they're doing anyway.
Yeah.
They're playing with a different team locally. You know, they're playing with the Lumberjacks locally, and then they're playing with Canes National for their 4 events.
Right.
Right. So, okay, well, why don't you play with Midland locally and then play with Midland National if you're that good?
There you go. And I'm seeing a lot more of that happen. We've talked to some kids that were doing that kind of stuff at the PBR event that we were with Kevin. So it's not something new. And to me, then you have that 9 through 14U. You know, the kids are, how much development is getting better. And we talk about clubs, we talk about these things. Indoor facilities cost money. That's just the way it is. It's the nature of it. Understand and know that if you want to play at a higher level, you have to be able to train. You have to put that. Do I think kids ought to play multiple sports? Absolutely.
I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah, they should. But if you're training for baseball, go get yourself into that place. Take the time to work, and they're there. These opportunities are here, and I believe that's why we're talking about, we just got done with all of the high school stuff, and we've been talking about how good these players are, how good these teams are in St. Louis. And why is that? There's a reason for that. There's a reason, and talent is there, sure, but then it's becoming more refined.
It is. There's a lot of good players in Missouri in general. There's a lot of good players in St. Louis. There's a lot of good players across the country. But there's just, certain classes are better than others. Like the 2023 class is really good. But I go back to some of these kids, if they get to a point where them just playing the local circuit isn't going to do anything for them anymore. They're not being challenged enough. Mm-hmm. So those kids want to play against kids that are better than them or just as good as they are with players like that and against players like that. That's why they leave to go play down south. Right. So, again, that's why we have a team for that, so those kids can go do that stuff. But St. Louis has a lot of kids. St. Louis has, there's a lot of good soccer kids here. There's a lot of good basketball kids. There's a lot of good baseball kids. So there's just a lot of good kids in general.
And your Midland Bandits group is there. There will be kids that will be playing all through high school and in the summer, getting better, looking at regional and local.
Oh, yeah.
You have great in-state colleges.
Yes.
You've got, UCM, right? It's how you say it, right? University of Central Missouri. Yeah. I blew that the one time, didn't I? You have the NAIA schools that are really good around here. What did we say? Was it Missouri Western? I think is also
Missouri Southern.
Southern.
UCM, Missouri Valley. The list really can go
Missouri
forever.
State too. I know it's D1, Missouri Valley, but still. So there's plenty of opportunities within this regional area if these kids are working hard and they're up with a good you have good quality Midland Bandits teams in that 15, 16, 17U, playing good tournaments around the area, maybe even traveling as far as Memphis, going down into Joplin, going up to Creekside in Kansas City,
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, but it goes back to my point that certain players that's where they're going to go play.
Right.
So why go to Atlanta for 9 days and spend $6,000 and maybe win 1 or 2 games? Because that's not where you belong.
And I think, let me ask.
It's hard for a parent to understand that because sometimes you want to put them in a situation like that where they play better teams so they can see it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now I see the difference. But it's hard because it's a double-edged sword. You do that, and then they're mad that they just got, we just played a tournament and we didn't win a game. And then you go play the level that you belong at, and then that's, kind of
you're competing again.
Yeah. Right.
And when you're talking about these types of things within the Midland organization, how are those conversations being had? And that needs to be talked about, doesn't it?
Oh, and when you have a national and a premier team, it makes it easier because it's like, hey, you either didn't get invited, you weren't on the list to even be picked for that team,
right?
And I mean, you can say, like, let's say the 15U national team next year has 9 kids from Texas.
Right.
And Florida sends them 4. I mean, now you're looking at 13. So he may say, send me 1 or 2, or do you want to come down and pitch only? I don't need you for anything else. I mean, there's so many different things that go into it. But
now let me ask you this, because we've talked with Sean Cavanaugh before. And Sean's a great guy. I really enjoy talking with Sean. And I remember the first time way back, we were interviewing, we were doing a club spotlight for you guys.
Yeah.
That's been a few years, hasn't it? And Sean's sitting next to me, and he says, yeah, I'm the consigliere. And I was like, oh, my gosh, we're in the mafia now. It was hilarious. But
he still is. He's still the consigliere. His title hasn't changed.
There you go. And so here's Cavanaugh. How does his role change? What does it change in that respect? How does he move into that and start looking at players? And how does that help the decision-making process in that?
Well, it's different now because, I mean, he still helps and still does a lot of things, especially locally, but it also, it's broader because there's more people involved. Mm-hmm. So there's guys in Cincinnati that have really good connections with Power 5 D1 schools. Guys in Texas have really good connections with a lot of schools in their area. I mean, the guy in Florida, he's sending kids to Florida International, Florida State, Central Florida. So you're talking about, they know who these people are.
Yeah.
But then I had the Florida guy say, hey, I have a kid. Here's his video. What do you think? Where do you think he can go? He's a 21 who, because of COVID, and he got injured. So he's trying to get him somewhere that's maybe not in Florida.
Right.
So it's turned into it's always been a group effort, but now it's a group effort locationally, states, countrywide. So everybody's helping everybody.
Is a Mizzou, because of that connection, or a Missouri State getting a kid out of Florida because of that thought process, right?
Possibly. I mean, that's really on them if they want.
Right.
And that's also if a kid from Florida wants to come spend 4 years in Missouri.
Well, I understand. Still Power 5, SEC. It's still that draw. In
Florida
that
kids normally don't leave Florida.
I understand. I mean, there's probably, you could go to the D2 Tampa University and
you could.
I mean, that's a very good program.
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of opportunities, and recruiting gets very difficult in those respects.
But the thing is, there's a lot of good connections with college coaches. Yes. There's a lot of college coaches that coached in Midland.
Really?
That are now Division I pitching coaches or assistant head coaches or recruiting coordinators. There's guys that have sent us kids over the years, and then because, hey, this is my kid needs to spend a summer with the Redskins.
Yeah. There you go.
So it's a give and take. It's relationships,
and that's what you're looking to build. And as the
looking
program,
to build off of that.
Yeah,
in different markets. Yeah.
And I think it's a great opportunity for the St. Louis market.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Right.
It's a true national organization in St. Louis, and there's a couple other ones, but you very rarely do you find a national team. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, hey, we're going to be based out of St. Louis.
So, we got to do this, though. So, in the fall, we got to get to Cincinnati and do a couple of shows from the headquarters over there.
Yeah, there's a Perfect Game WWBA Worlds qualifier in Cincinnati in the fall. And then we'll go to Jupiter in October for the WWBA Worlds event, which is the biggest event in the country.
We ought to just go over there and just...
I'll be there.
Let's do it, man.
So,
all right.
Up to you.
We will. Got to give me the dates for that. It'll be fun.
But yeah, the biggest thing is just letting people know what Midland is and trying to inform them about the history, about... it's in my mind, I've always looked at them as the New York Yankees of amateur baseball.
And I don't think there's a lot of people that know that, right? Especially they don't. It's informing because there's clubs. We talk about club baseball, but this is that club baseball at another notch.
Yeah, there's teams that go compete in the biggest events in the country, and these kids are they're the cream of the crop in the country.
Opportunity. That's all you want is opportunity, right?
Yeah, but the same thing is you put the kids that are Division I kids in front of pro guys, in front of Division I Power 5 guys, because that's where they belong. Just like you put kids in front of NAIA, D3, even D2, or JUCO kids, because that's where they belong.
Okay, and this is kind of where I wanted to go to a minute ago, and I want to finish with this because I know we don't want to just blather on, but I think it's fun. I enjoy these conversations personally. Okay. And I think this is the point. You want those guys, and I think this is the tough conversation sometimes with parents, right? Is there's only a select few of those people that are Division I. And there are mid-major Division I's.
Correct.
Then you're looking at Division II, you're looking at Division III, and there's NAIA mixed in that. And then there's kids that got to go the JUCO route, and maybe it's because of grades. Maybe they just need to develop more, right? They have potential. How does Midland help those parents? And I know sometimes it's not necessarily even, you're trying desperately to help, and sometimes it's a little hard sometimes. I understand that. But what is that? Where are those things in place with Midland that help those decisions?
You're talking about
when you're talking about, where those kids are, where do you see these kids? This group of kids here, you can put that, we know you're going to be in this region area.
Right.
This is where you are. Because like you said, you have those top kids.
How do you have those conversations?
Yeah.
This is where you belong. It's really not much of a conversation. I mean, this is where we see you, and this is what you're going to do. If somebody else wants to promise the world to you and say, hey, I'm going to Atlanta, I'm going to Florida, I'm going to do all these events, and you want to go there and spend the money to go there, then by God, go for it.
Right.
But if we don't see you as a kid that should be doing those things, then we'll send you to a really good tournament in Memphis.
Right.
And you'll experience some really good baseball, and then we'll go from there. And
see what gives. There'll be those.
I'm not knocking
schools.
on these people.
No.
I'm just stating
this isn't knocking, and I think this is the conversation, Matt. I really do. I've thought about this for a long time, and this is just me on the other side of it.
Yeah.
I and Matt's been around here a while, and I'm pleased for you as far as the program. I think it's great. And but I think that when you're talking about this high level stuff, there has to be that place. And do kids really understand where they fit within the scope of college baseball and that next level? That doesn't mean that a kid that goes to an NAIA school can't grow 5 inches, throw 95, and get drafted.
Correct.
Right?
100%. No, the first thing that we always tell people is be realistic. Let's be realistic. Be realistic with your kid. Be realistic with, what they want to do, where they want to go, and look at the rosters of all the D1s, and then pull up where did they play, who did they play for, what teams were they on.
Right.
Like let's take Arkansas for example. I mean, they've been the number one team in the country all year, but look at all the kids on that team. Who did they play for, and what events were they in?
Right.
That's like stuff like that.
It lends perspective, right?
Yeah, because they just don't know. Right. So it's just doing some research to figure out.
And I think that's where, the opportunities that you've opened up with being, now it's Midland Baseball and that hub, the opportunities, the people, I don't want to say franchise, the club, all of those things are there to really make an impact on all these other areas in the country, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. And it's not a situation where if, somebody calls and says, hey, I want to be Midland, I'm going to be Midland. That doesn't do us any good. It's
right.
It's a vetting process to actually say, hey, I'm going to be the Midland Spikes out of Louisiana. I'm just completely making that up.
Yeah, I understand.
But, you know what I mean? It's not, hey, this guy John called and, come on over. No, there's more to it than that. So
I understand. If people want to get a hold of you, they can go to the website. I'm sure Midland.
Yeah, midlandbaseball.net. And there's a contact us page. There's information. There's a history page. There's all kinds of stuff on that.
And I would encourage you to go check out the website. It's fun to look at, just with all the stuff that's there.
And then if you ever get to Cincinnati, there's the Midland facility, the fields. There's 3 fields. Press box / office has a lot of really good memorabilia in it, and with really nice fields, stadium seating.
It's cool,
and it's always rocking in the summer.
So hey, thanks. I appreciate you doing this, taking the
course.
time, and we appreciate Midland Baseball President Matt Shadow. So good luck to you. Summer's, you're starting in high gear now, right?
Yep, kicking off.
There
You're
you
going.
go. So hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Always remember, if you like what we're doing, please hit the subscribe button, hit that dinger, because that's what we do around here. We hit dingers. Everybody have a great day in the Lord, and all you pitchers, keep throwing strikes. You got to say it.
Hit them where they ain't.
There you go. It's good advice. We'll see you next time, guys.